What's good in the hood, YouTube? This is Crazy Samurai 71 here, bringing you another video. Today's video is a video on Transformers Robots in Disguise, episode, what would you call it? Episode 7. This episode is entitled "Collect Them All." This episode has a Decepticon, which is a bit unusual due to the fact that unlike most of the seasons where most of the episodes where you see what the bot form of the robot is, technically there is supposed to be a bot mode, but the entire episode we never get to see that bot mode pretty much. I mean, the whole time it's in its other form, which I'll get to when we get there, but it's a bit of an unusual episode for that reason, and the way that it talks is different, but I would say it makes some sense for this episode. I just wanted to say this now just because of the fact that overall it's a very unusual Decepticon for that reason, though you could say, well, what about Fix-It? But Fix-It has already had a toy form made which has shown him and what he's supposed to look like in his secondary mode, which makes complete and utter sense. But this Decepticon's different, and I've seen what the humanoid form is supposed, the bot form is supposed to look like, and it doesn't, and the thing is that in this episode at least it's not shown, so yeah. Anyway, this episode starts off with a family alongside their child going towards going on a summer vacation or whatever together, and the kid's complaining. He sort of looks like he resembles I guess you could say a black Rusty in a way almost, although he does look different. Just when he first comes off of comes out of the car that they're in because they're going somewhere or whatever, he kind of resembles Rusty a little bit. But anyway, he comes out, he's all depressed, and then suddenly, as they're walking, from behind comes the Decepticon. Now, I'm just going to say Decepticon right now just so that I make it clear so that I can just say it. The Decepticon is referred to as Filch. Filch is a bird-like Decepticon. So he comes out of nowhere and he grabs their car and takes off with it, and they look back, and suddenly the boy's like, hashtag, and he actually says this. This is not even me. This is the boy. He actually says hashtag sleeping in an apartment or something. Hashtag sleeping in a hotel. It's just like, okay, really, you have to be so modern to say hashtag sleeping in a hotel, because you see him on his phone. He's doing that. It's like that's what he's also saying. It's just like, oh my god. So anyway, back at the so then we suddenly see all the Autobots, and also Danny and obviously Rusty and everyone else back at the base, and we see them together, and they're greeted by a character known as what do you call it? He's known as Larry LaRue. Now, Larry is a pretty sneaky character. He apparently had some similar interest to Danny in regard to the fact that Danny owns the land to the scrapyard, but this other guy had similar interests at one point. But now he decided to come over, and he said, I have this show that's called Scrapmeisters, and I would love to go and visit your place, and maybe if there's something good I might buy something from you. And Danny, you would think, that sounds nice, maybe I can get some publicity. Danny is not that kind of a person, and he really doesn't appreciate people doing that. So when and also he just doesn't trust Larry to begin with, it's very clear. So Danny basically just closes the door on him and says, forget it, you're not doing it. I'm not letting you in here. You're not going to do anything. Well, Rusty's there at the same time, and Rusty is thinking, this is a good thing. This will help us so that eventually we'll have enough money to live in the city. Rusty, don't be stupid. This is not a person you trust. You'll see. Okay. So then what happens is that we see. I'm just trying to remember now. We then see. I'm just double checking something. Right. So then following this, what happens is that there is an attack that occurs that's sounded. An alarm it goes off basically for Fix-It, basically telling him to tell the Autobots to go after Filch, which at the time they don't know it's Filch. Anyway. They go and find him, and they each get attacked by him. And B at one point even, I mean, they fight this creature, Filch, and Filch is really big. And the thing is that Filch manages to basically throw Strong Arm and Sideswipe from the air down to the ground. I mean, Sideswipe and Strong Arm are not small, so throwing two Autobots from any height, that's a big deal. You probably are pretty big. So he does that, and then suddenly Grimlock throws B up into the air, and B tries to beat up Filch. It's a pretty cool sequence. Following this, the fight continues a little bit. And then we see them, and then after that, what happens is that Filch ends up climbing up towards an electric tower, like basically, yeah, it's an electric tower. So then what happens is that Filch ends up trying to like tear apart the power lines, and and then Bumblebee tries to climb up the tower, and when he gets to a certain point, Filch ends up dropping the power line on top of Bumblebee. Bumblebee gets electrocuted, and that's when Filch disappears. So then following this, we see them back at the base, and this is when finally Fix-It tells them what is this Decepticon, and this Decepticon is referred to as Filch, as we've said several times now. So now I can actually say that yes, it's just Filch, end the story. Though they don't really say Filch's name really that much, because he never shows his bot mode, so you really can't really tell. I mean, or his con mode, you should say. We never get to see it, so it's very unusual for that reason, because the whole entire time you would think that they would show it. They don't show it, so it's very different. So anyway, following this, B, Strong Arm ends up acting very depressed, because she's not very used to living on Earth. She's not very used to being away from Cybertron, and so she's depressed. And then B comes over to comfort her and explains how he got used to living on Earth. He explained that the way that he accomplished being able to get used to it was the fact that he considered living on Earth like a game, in regard to the fact that it's all about new rules and newer ideas, and having to get accustomed to things that are a little bit different. But it creates a challenge and creates something that it's a little bit more fun and a little bit more exciting overall. So overall, that's a very interesting character. I mean, B is always a very, very cool character. Anyway, following this, though, they receive another message. Basically, this message is one from another attack of Filch. Filch is going after a bridge in this case. So everyone, pretty much except for Danny, Rusty, and Fix-It, of course, go after Filch. The reason why Grimlock cannot go this time is due to the fact that Grimlock is too big. He doesn't have a he doesn't have a vehicle mode. He has a dino mode. So yeah, it's not going to really work out very well in a normal setting. Though he does try to create his own fake, not so good looking vehicle mode, which basically has him holding onto some tires and also having like a fender in the front or whatever, and having some stuff all around to make him resemble to an extent a car. Though at the same time, it's pretty clear that it does have dinosaur elements to it. But you'll see how naive people can be in that regard very soon. So anyway, what happens is that then they go after Filch. Filch ends up removing one of the stabilizers or supporters inside the bridge, and suddenly we have this sequence where B, Strong Arm, and Sideswipe are fighting they're fighting. What do you call it? Filch, and the thing is that the bridge is falling apart. So from below, you see like B is having to deal with Filch, while Sideswipe and Strongarm have to try and hold up the bridge to the best of their abilities. Though they're not the strongest bots ever, but they are fairly strong. So they do manage to do it for a pretty long time. But you'll see what happens. But I'll continue to explain what happened. So anyway, following this, B ends up eventually losing his actually what happens is that oh yeah, I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember now. Danny ends up trying to do some. Danny's there because he's typically there to do things to he puts on a disguise to basically make the people around there not get involved or see these bots doing the stuff that they're doing. And so he puts on this disguise and he basically tells a police officer that comes by, because apparently they get some messages of saying some bad stuff is happening, and he tells the police officer that there's this weird mythical bird that got loose and they're massive, and if they need to set up a roadblock in order to prevent anyone from getting on the bridge so that the bird doesn't get in the way. And the bird is obviously Filch. And so when the police officer sees, he's like, "Okay, yeah, don't worry, we're getting a block. Don't worry. Yep, roadblock, no problem. Yep." Okay. It was a really, really funny scene. So anyway, following this, we eventually we find out something that's pretty key about what is Filch's major concept, what is his purpose, because a lot of these Decepticons, usually they're not just there because they want to cause trouble. Usually they have an agenda in mind, and Filch's agenda would be, in this case, that he likes to collect shiny things. Yes, and his he says very few words. It's usually a one-word a phrase that basically sums up everything he does over. He'll say one word here, one word there, and it will always be just one word. So, but his most common thing to say is shiny. So he'll say shiny or something like that, and so he sees Danny's helmet, which is shiny and it shines. So then Filch goes after his helmet and goes after Danny and brings Danny back to where his nest is. In the meantime, though, back at the base, there's Grimlock, there's Fix-It, there's Rusty, and what happens is that Larry comes in. He sneaks in. I mean, he doesn't just ring the bell. No, he sneaks in this time, acting very suspicious. Clearly, not someone you want to trust. He begins to walk around. Rusty goes over, trying to say that Rusty's gonna take over and do the interview for the show. Larry asks him a question while he has his camera with him, and then following this, Larry just starts to go off and search around the scrapyard. Of course, that's not what you're supposed to do normally in these cases. Usually you're not allowed to go off and just search without someone being there, because in reality, that's just you're being completely obnoxious and rude, and if someone did that in reality, you're basically invading their privacy, and you could get put in jail in reality if this were a reality show, because that person would be gone minutes later. That person would be gone. That would be the end of Larry, because Larry basically invaded. I mean they let them in, but still, it's you are a bit that person's pretty terrible. So right away, Larry's trying to do that, but the thing is that eventually, Danny leaves or whatever, but at the same time, there's this incident that happens where, Bumblebee is having to help Sideswipe and Strongarm support the bridge, but at the same time, they end up messaging Grimlock, because they need Grimlock to help at this point, because Grimlock's big, he can support the bridge a lot better, and they can eventually get to Filch. So what happens is that Larry's there, and Grimlock needs to get out, and it's not going to be easy to really get out with another human that's really not supposed to be there is there. So they have to. So at one point he has to put on his disguise, which doesn't really work that well, and then Fix-It almost comes over, and he actually records himself on Larry's camera. So Larry has him on camera, which is not good, of course. So, but Larry never checks it, first of all. Anyway, what happens is that following this. There's this scene where, following this, Grimlock manages to eventually get over. We also have this scene with Danny, where Danny wakes up, and Danny is inside his nest, which is like in a statue that sort of resembles the Statue of Liberty in a way, though it's not. It's pretty clear it's not. I mean, it might represent it because it kind of looks like it, but at the same time it doesn't. I don't know how to describe it. It's not exactly the Statue of Liberty, but it is in a way. Anyway, what happens is that he's in like the torch area of it, if you wanted to call it that. I mean, it looks like the Statue of Liberty in that regard. Anyway, there's all sorts of metal junk all around the place, and it's all shining. And behind him is Filch, and Filch is like right there. And Danny tries to distract him, basically trying to tell Filch to that there's this like recycling center that has all sorts of shiny metal objects, and if he goes to a certain location, he can go and find it. So anyway. Filch goes off, and then eventually Danny has to find batteries. So because his phone's dead, and so he has to find something to give his phone power. So he looks around, tries to figure out something. He eventually calls Rusty, and Rusty ends up messaging, telling Fix-It to tell B, yes, so-and-so told so-and-so to do so, yes. He tells him to tell B where he is located, where Danny is located, and following, and so now so that he'll be aware, and this happens after, and they go after Grimlock eventually comes to the rescue and is able to pretty easily support the bridge, though it only lasts for a good amount of time, but not the greatest amount of time. And I mean, the three of them, Strong Arm, Sideswipe, and Be Alone. I mean, they were able to support it, but it was still pretty hard. But Grimlock alone manages to support it fairly well overall for a good amount of time. So anyway, Sideswipe, B, and Strongarm go after They go after Filch, and they go after Danny, and Filch is obviously there because Filch brought Danny to the nest. So anyway, they end up climbing up the statue, and they get to the upper level of the base of the statue, all three of them, and suddenly Filch comes, swoops down, grabs B in his talons, and drops him to the ground, and he basically falls to the ground, and then suddenly B and Filch end up getting into a fight. Now Sideswipe is continuing to climb up, but Strongarm is looking down at Filch and B, and Strongarm's usually a character that really doesn't want to go against the rules. He always he's a character that usually wants to listen to what is going on. He wants to listen to the orders of Cybertronian police or whatever. He wants to he wants to go by protocol. So for once, this is a big deal. Strongarm breaks protocol, and he jumps. Strongarm is a girl. Strongarm jumps from the upper base onto Filch, starts to get into a fight alongside B with against, in this case, what would you say? Filch. And so they end up fighting for a while. Eventually, Sideswipe gets up to the top of the statue and manages to find Danny, and he mocks how Filch says, "Ooh, shiny," to everything around there, and then Danny just kind of it's just yeah, that's funny, just get me down. And so anyway, he ends up Sideswipe ends up finding the stabilizing beam that was used for the bridge, and what he does is that from the top of where like the torch area is, where Danny was or whatever, he throws that stabilizing beam directly from all the way up top to where, let's just say, like he's above my camera, but like it would be, let's just say that he's very high up. He manages to throw it a huge distance from above directly onto Filch. Filch gets knocked out unconscious, and then what happens is that Strong Arm and Sideswipe return to the base to bring back Filch, while B goes to help Strong Arm. I mean, not Strong Arm, I'm saying B goes to help Grimlock fix the bridge. So that all happens, and then eventually what happens is that we see everyone back at the base. They somehow manage to sneak in Filch, and just in general they manage to sneak into the base with Filch. Anyway, Larry and Danny end up having a conversation where Larry ends up saying that either Danny, you have to give me all the metal objects that what do you call it? All the items that I saw that I wanted to get, and like you have to sell them to me. Like he's willing to sell. He's not just willing to like, oh, here, you can have it. No. He's willing to sell them. So he's being reasonable in that regard. Like, I'll buy these from you, and then I won't expose any of this. I won't show any of the video to anyone else if you sell them to me. But if you don't sell them to me, then this will be shown everywhere, and all collectors will go and search for where your scrapyard is, and you will be having people coming at your door 24/7, and it will be an issue. So Danny agrees to it on two conditions. First of all, Larry, you're never coming back. Second of all, he says, well, this is Rusty's remark, which is totally true. We need the memory cards so that you cannot use these, because we need to know for a fact that you are not going to the moment you come back to your house or whatever, go and stream these online, and suddenly everyone's coming regardless, or just in general. The other thing is that Fix-It recorded himself on camera, so yeah, they don't want to show that either. That's not a good thing. So anyway, that all happens, and in fact, not only that happens, but let's just say Larry leaves his camera there, so Fix is able to look over it because he's actually very curious about the camera. But anyway, that conversation happens, and you may think, oh no, he sold all these good things that are really, really expensive merchandise or whatever. The thing is that we find out that apparently Larry went to aisle 3, which you may think, what is aisle 3? It's just, he has the scrapyard, so it's like there's different aisles in it or whatever. So third aisle, right? Danny tells Rusty that the best stuff was actually in aisle 4, so he didn't even get the best stuff. So he has no idea what he was looking at. So he could have. So the thing was that Danny doesn't really care as much because it wasn't stuff from aisle 4. So he outsmarted him. Anyway, following this, we see this scene with Strong Arm and B talking to one another, and Strong Arm is telling and Strong Arm and B talk about how Strong Arm broke protocol this time, and it was a big deal, and B was proud of Strong Arm, and then Strong Arm says, "Don't worry, you're still gonna be, I'm still writing each of you guys up for what you did today, so don't mess with me, because just because I broke protocol one time doesn't mean that I won't write you guys up." So there's always that funny moment. So anyway, guys, that's about it for this episode. I really, really, really like this episode. Really, really fun stuff. It's a great season overall. It's been a really great season so far overall. We're 7 episodes in so far, so things are looking really fun. It's just a really exciting show. They're doing a lot of really, really great things, and I'm really liking what they've done with the show so far. And I think that just in general, as a whole, this show is a lot of fun. It's a really fun show. It's done really well. They have a lot of interesting Decepticon choices that I feel that are really surprising that they actually included, because a lot of them really aren't that well known. I mean, there are some, but a lot of them really aren't, and that's the awesome thing, is that they're really trying to pay attention to a lot of the Decepticons and Autobots that aren't always the most focused. I mean, even B's definitely a big focus, but it's not like Optimus is in charge for once. I mean, Optimus, he has that force, and he's been a major influence on B, but he's not like the leader this time. So that's the big difference here. I mean, a lot of characters get a lot of significance that really never usually do, and it's really just really fun. I mean, Strong Arm never really existed till now, so it's a big deal. So anyway, guys, please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you guys for watching, and remember, guys, to stay awesome, and I will see you guys in my in our next video. So anyway, guys, goodbye.